Hello everyone, it's me again, Joseph, your host, and welcome back to our channel and the Saint Story for Kids. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be a real-life princess? To live in a grand castle, wear beautiful clothes, and have everything you could ever wish for? Well, today, we're going to hear the story of a princess who had all of that but chose something entirely different. This is the amazing true story of Saint Margaret of Hungary. Our story begins a long, long time ago, in the year 1242, in a kingdom called Hungary. The land was in great danger. A powerful army, the Mongols, was invading, and everyone was terrified. The king and queen, Béla IV and Maria Lascarina, had to flee their home for safety. While they were hiding in a strong fortress, they made a solemn promise to God. They prayed, "Dear God, if you save our kingdom from this invasion, we will dedicate our next child completely to you." Soon after, the danger passed, and Hungary was safe. The king and queen kept their promise. When their baby daughter was born, they named her Margaret. They knew she was a special gift, and they were ready to fulfill their vow. When Margaret was just 3 years old, a tiny little girl, her parents brought her to a convent, a special house where women called nuns live and dedicate their lives to God. Imagine being just 3 years old and moving into a new home. But little Margaret wasn't sad or scared. From the very beginning, she felt right at home. The nuns at the convent in Veszprém were part of the Dominican order. They wore simple black and white habits and spent their days in prayer and service. Margaret loved this life. When she was only 4, she asked for her own little religious habit to wear, just like the older nuns. She had a brilliant mind and a heart full of love for God. By that same age, she had already learned all the prayers from a special book called The Little Office of the Blessed Virgin Mary. When Margaret turned 10, her father, the king, built a brand new convent just for her and other nuns on a beautiful island in the Danube River. This island was called Rabbit Island then, but today it's known as Margaret Island, right in the middle of Budapest, the capital of Hungary. This is where Margaret would spend the rest of her life. Now, you might think that being a princess in a convent would be easy. Maybe she got special food or didn't have to do any chores, but that's the most surprising part of Margaret's story. She absolutely refused to be treated like a princess. In fact, she did the opposite. Margaret chose to do the hardest, dirtiest, and most unpleasant jobs in the entire convent. She would scrub the floors, cook the meals in the hot kitchen, and clean the sewers. Most importantly, she took care of the sick. She didn't just care for those with simple colds. She looked after people with very serious and contagious diseases, the ones that others were often afraid to go near. She would gently wash their wounds, feed them, and comfort them with a loving heart. The other nuns were amazed. Here was a princess, the daughter of a king, acting like the humblest servant of all. She wanted to show that in God's eyes, everyone is equally precious. And true greatness comes from serving others, not from being served. As Margaret grew into a young woman, her father started to have second thoughts about his promise. He was a king, and kings needed to make smart political alliances. He had an idea. He would arrange for Margaret to marry a powerful king from a neighboring country, King Ottokar of Bohemia. This marriage would make both kingdoms stronger. He even went to the Pope, the leader of the church, and got special permission for Margaret to be released from her vows. When her father told her the news, everyone expected her to be excited. She could be a queen. But Margaret's response shocked him. She stood firm and said, "I have chosen Jesus Christ as my only bridegroom, and I will have no other." She would not break her promise to God, not for a crown, not for a kingdom, not for anything in the world. Her love for God was more precious to her than any earthly treasure. Seeing her unshakable faith, her father finally gave up. Margaret was free to live her life as a nun, dedicated entirely to God. To prove her commitment, Margaret lived a life of extreme prayer and penance. Penance is a way of showing you're sorry for your faults and want to grow closer to God. She would fast often, eating very little. She spent long hours, even late into the night, praying in the chapel while others were asleep. She wore a rough shirt made of hair under her habit, and even an iron belt to constantly remind herself to be humble and disciplined. These practices were very harsh, and they took a great toll on her body. Margaret's deep faith and constant prayer brought her very close to God. It was said that she had mystical experiences where she would see visions of Jesus and the saints. Her love wasn't just in her prayers, it overflowed into her actions. She was known for her incredible kindness and generosity to the poor. She would give away any nice things she received, making sure that those in need had food and clothing. Her life was a beautiful example of loving God with all her heart and loving her neighbor as herself. All of her hard work, her constant fasting, and her difficult penances were very tough on her health. Margaret's body grew weak. On January 18, 1270, at the very young age of 28, Princess Margaret of Hungary passed away. Her life on earth was short, but her impact was immense. The moment she died, something incredible began to happen. The people who had known her, the nuns in her convent, and the poor she had served, all began to pray to her, asking for her help from heaven, and miracles started happening. Many, many miracles. People who were sick were suddenly healed after praying to Margaret. In total, 74 miracles were officially recorded shortly after her death. The stories were amazing. There were numerous healings, and one incredible account even told of a person being brought back to life through her intercession. Her brother, King Stephen V, was so convinced of her holiness that he immediately asked the church to officially declare her a saint. The process of becoming a saint can take a very long time. Even though everyone knew she was holy, it took many centuries for the final declaration. Finally, on November 19, 1943, Pope Pius XII officially canonized her, and she was given the title Saint Margaret of Hungary. Today, if you see a painting or a statue of Saint Margaret, you'll usually see her dressed in the black and white habit of a Dominican nun. She is often holding two things: a white lily, which is a symbol of her purity and her choice to dedicate her life solely to God, and a book representing her love for prayer and learning. So, what can we learn from this princess who chose a simple life of service over a life of luxury? Saint Margaret's story teaches us a powerful lesson. It shows us that true happiness and greatness don't come from having wealth, power, or fancy titles. They come from a heart full of love. She teaches us that kindness, humility, and serving others, especially the poor and the sick, are what truly matter. She chose God above everything else, and in doing so, she found a joy and a purpose far greater than any royal crown could offer. Her life is a reminder that each of us, no matter who we are, can find holiness in our own lives by choosing love and service first. Thank you for joining us for the story of Saint Margaret of Hungary. We hope her amazing life inspires you to show kindness and love to everyone you meet. If you enjoyed this story, please like and share this video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories of the saints. Take care, everyone. Stay healthy and hungry for holiness. See you next time, and God bless you always.